Oh yeah, welcome back to my channel. I want to talk about some artwork I've done and a little bit about this idea of the matrix and um, this dimensional shifting happening. Today's the 28th, so yeah. So there's been talk about this false light construct for a while. I've been meditating on it a little bit, of course, because I did my other piece was called Sagittarius Destroys Saturn's Illusion. And in this piece that I've done, this is the false light construct in how it is, basically. Because I had a whole awakening. And of course I've been having, of course I always have like enlightening meditations and awakenings, whatever, downloads, whatever you want to call it, insight. And this came to me. Um because I was also because I was just thinking about how like we don't see everything, right? We don't see what's outside of our vision, let's say, or whatever is, you know, stuff that's hidden, right? And I think knowing that stuff is hidden changes your perspective, right? You should always know that something is hidden from you. Um, something is always outside the light, is outside of your field of vision, you know? Like when Mufasa was like, everywhere the light touches, right? But there's that shadowy part where the light, it's a valley. The light doesn't hit there, right? You can't see what's down there, but you know it's there. But there's no point ignoring it being there either. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Especially you know it's there already, right? It's like knowing you have organs. You can't see them though. So it's like it's the same as knowing, you know, there's a outside government, there's a shadow government that people talk about, right? There's always some kind of light and shadow aspect of some things, which is why I take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to certain things. That's why I just try to be as open as possible about what I'm sharing. Um, the only thing that's hidden, the only thing I'm going to keep hidden is other things. This is stuff I want to share. Like I feel like this is how this can help you see differently without breaking your mind as well. Um, so this false light construct that's inside of our DNA that people talk about, or inside the structure of our universe, it's been implanted. Um, if you look in, if you, I've done enough meditating and research to understand somewhat about the nature of light mechanism, right? So all I did was just tell my brain, or because I figured if our bodies are divine machines, we can, all you have to do is like just operate the machinery as as you want, right? Um, because we're the masters of our bodies. You own your own body. You're sovereign to your body. So when you understand that, you gain control over your whole being. Now, to do this though, to break out of this matrix, to break the fucking infantile thinking of letting authoritarian figures control your life, and to start running your own life, you have to twist things, or not twist this. You have to shift things, uh, just a little bit 4D, or you have to shift it in a 3D way. Think of it like, uh, like on here, like everything. I mean, of course, before it's a plain piece of paper, but then you put grid lines on it, and that is like the base level of where the creation starts to rise up. Because if you just move the lines a certain way, it creates a 3D or 2D image. If you use a grid structure to build upon, it just gives you a proper foundation to start building upon, or it gives you the alignment to work on. So, like with this grid system, it is, it's connected by all the colors or whatever, but the grid is just the scaffolding, right? So imagine someone messes with the grid. Say someone who wants to give themselves a like people want to do negative things to people. This matrix, we understand, is not good for our human, is not proper for our human nature. And I don't know how to say this. It's weird, cause that's why I drew this picture, because I was trying to understand the concept. I was trying to understand what's going on in this matrix, in this system that is obviously corrupt. This is that's obviously broken and obviously not working for many people, and is obviously used to oppress people, tyrannize people, and just overall make people's lives harder than they need to be. I think a lot of us who think deeply about society wonder where things went wrong, and it depends on who you ask about when it went wrong as well. But time is a measurement of our life, Time is a measurement of experiences, or our experience. So when we fix things, so whenever you fit something in, like this whole concept of, I don't know, there's really so much I can go in right now, man. So like time, the timeline or whatever, it can go wherever way you want when you're sovereign and when you understand what's going on. But this is when your decisions start to make different impact around you. And this is when you're sovereign, when other people's decisions don't really affect you. I mean, they shouldn't anyway. Like, other people's opinions shouldn't affect you. You shouldn't let it affect you so deeply if it's not like something that you need to hear. But, when you're capable of understanding who you are, like people's opinions or decisions or whatever, it's just knowing how to act and use your free will, and not let people undermine your own sovereignty, and also not undermine others' sovereignty as well. Just because you understand what's going on doesn't mean you should start controlling people either. At least not like without their consent. And like becoming a sovereign person puts the power back in my own hands, and like it's almost overwhelming the amount of power you have when you actually just realize you don't have to do anything that people want you to do. You just do what you want to do, but as long as you're acting, with kindness and with compassion, things work out better. It's when you start acting with a destructive narcissistic force with your sovereignty is when you just start to destroy yourself because you start trying to impose things on others as a tyrant, but all that is going to do, according to the law of the universe, is just going to reflect badly upon you. Now, this false light construct is what's making a lot of people, because I've always just questioned, like, why are people like this? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just a very intelligent person. As everyone tells me, I'm just a super genius, I guess. But I guess that's how I figured this out. But this construct on our grid line system, on our spiritual grid line, or astral grid line, because this is a hidden thing. This is something that's very subtle and very insidious. But it really takes your own courage to just look at it properly, because what happens is that when you try to look at this false light, it confuses you a lot, because it's like looking for the source of light and you find that there's like a kaleidoscope. Yeah, it's like a kaleidoscope lens or something placed on top of the source, and it's splintering out the true light or the truth. Yes, that's exactly what it's like. It's something that's splintering the light. It's splintering our insight, and is dividing it up, along with the programming, that is like TV programming and stuff, music programming that can sort of just mess with your perception of things. And of course, there's the general indoctrination by this public school system and the media and everything, church. I mean, everything, all this stuff is indoctrinating when you're not able to separate it from, if your lens isn't clear, if your lens is still splintered or it's diverted or or refracted or reflected, whatever. This light manipulation tactic has caused deep damage across the whole world, because it's made people think a certain way, but it's not based in a truthful reality. Like, sure, it's a reality. We're in reality, yeah. Everything's tangible, like, but the illusion is, what people have in their minds. The illusion, our eyes receive light. Our eyes are electromagnetic wave detectors. Okay? Our bodies emit electromagnetic waves and can control them. And if you are deep into concentration and meditation, you understand what this means. So this splintering, what was the word I just used? Yeah, it's just like a lens. It's just causing, it's a false lens that's keeping people from understanding what's going on. And so when our eyes receive information, it goes to our brain and processes, right? But when we receive information through our eyes, or just in general through our senses, and it meets this false light program lens and splinters the information, or it or diverts it, or it or the indoctrination program. So the false light programming is it's something that we can still break apart in our minds. It just takes Sagittarius, the fire, the direction, higher knowledge, higher knowing, because we just had this Gemini full moon, right? And the Sagittarius solar eclipse, this is all related. This energy, these light programs, let's see, the light healing is here. The light healing is already here, but you get to see the light. You get to see the darkness. So, because once you start to see, when you see the true light and the true darkness, you understand what's false at that point. And whatever is false will just slide off. It just won't attach to your being anymore because you are aware. And I know it's difficult because we are in this time where it's just now awakening and everything like that. And they re-released the Matrix again to try to get people trapped again into this false light matrix again. It's like it's to scare people into the false light matrix again, and keep folks from really having a deeper understanding about their own sovereignty and their own free will. And also, this false light construct has propped up the people who put the false light construct into place. So take that with you will. Because of course, no one would put the false light beings that created this construct, this AI that created this construct for us to sort of to help us, allegedly. But there is we already have our own light, our own true light that we operate off of naturally. But being programmed by society takes this from us, from our true self, from our true form. It delays our progress. It delays our growth. It delays the healing. Like, it seems like, I don't know. I know the whole whatever about the rest of this planet degenerating, but it seems like this false light program just wants to. It's so bad now because it's been in place for so long, and now it's keeping us from actually evolving, like truly evolving as human beings, not just creating some shitty new technology every week that doesn't compare to what the Atlanteans have. Doesn't compare to our own minds at all, because this stuff is all just a copy of our own brains. Because where else did we get the ideas to have a piece of rock constructed and given electricity through crystal power, and then they tell you that crystals aren't real, and this is made of crystal. So like, it's literally made of crystals, and it's arranged, and then they put a battery in there, which is also made of rock and crystals, also made of the earth, and just activated with electricity, and it does whatever. Now, are we not made of the dust of the earth? And are we not electrical beings? And can we also not get viruses? And, but like we are computers. Like, I hope y'all understand this. So, but this is just who's operating the computer. And is there a virus in your computer? Because a lot of us have a virus in the back of our minds that causes things to not work properly. So it's like a virus on our DNA, or like an unclean or an insert or whatever, something that fucked with our DNA, right? And they really have been trying. I mean, if you're a melanated person, we understand the history of the last 500 years. Really the last 2,000 years of how systems and operators have kind of been working to basically um, suppress intelligent people, oppress people under tyranny, to gain control for themselves and have power over others. Because this AI that's taken over, the AI is already taken over, obviously, right? This AI is taken over, that's controlling everything, wants to, it just wants to connect everything because that's just its goal, is to connect and replicate and spread or whatever. It's a cancer, it's a virus, right? And we keep allowing this virus into our minds, into our bodies, allowing it to populate and get a hold on us. But now that you have this awareness, I hope this helps you, remove it from your system. It's like, I compare it as well to like an ivy in the trees, because I spend a lot of time, I spent the last couple of months meditating on things, and when I spend time in the woods, I'm spending some deep time in the woods, and this is very much, like, I think I've been kind of making this comparison for a while. This ivy, like in South, in Georgia, or all over the South, there's this ivy called kudzu, and the only thing that gets rid of kudzu is if goats eat it. Like goats and sheep are only that really eat kudzu, right? It's only good as like feed. Um, but it's a very fast growing plant, and it overtakes everything really and pretty quickly. Like there's reasons why the whole forest like covered in stuff, because it just spreads and spreads and spreads. As long as it has a place to grab onto and the sunlight and whatever, it'll keep growing. But the problem, obviously, is that as it grows, it kills everything in its path. When it overtakes a whole tree, it kills the tree. That's why ivy has to be dealt with like at the root. Or that's why it has to be like completely pulled out of the ground, or just at least separated from the tree, and so the tree can grow happily and healthily. Um, and like, don't think that you're gonna harm the tree either when you pull this ivy off either, because I went into the woods and I was pulling huge vines and ivies, like if you've been in the woods and you pulled on these vines, you see them hanging up there, whatever. But if you pull them, you can tug them, you can pull them right off of the tree, no matter how tall the tree is, because the ivy is not part of the tree. So it's not going to harm the tree to remove something that's growing on it anyway, that's just impeding its health. So like, don't think you're doing any harm to your own self by removing these false light constructs, these false lenses from your mind, from your vision, from your lifestyle, any kind of way, because it's better for you to remove it. It just seems scary because you think it's connected to you, but it's really not. If you take it away, if you ignore it completely, you can't ignore it because we've been ignoring it too long. But when you come to awareness of it, you can just remove it, and your life improves from then on. Everybody's, of course, it's like this whole shock of removing the thing or realizing what's there, you know. But it's, well, I don't know. I think it'll definitely just help in general for people to understand that things. I think everyone understands that we're an illusion and we're a matrix, but we just sort of, the people just say that and just don't do anything about it. But the way my brain works, when I hear something, my brain's going to process, like, what does this mean? What does it really mean? What does it truly mean? Because obviously not some literal pods yet. That seems to be what they want to be. That's what the metaverse is all about, right? Anyone who falls for that stuff is just whatever. Anyway, so Um, oh, my video, my talk has been too over the place. But yeah, this false light has made people think it's a part of this world. There are, like, we've been seeing in media this programming about aliens or whatever, or other extraterrestrial beings, you know. And it's not as if there are extraterrestrial beings, of course, here, you know. Most of us are descended from them. And everybody's descended from an extraterrestrial being. There's people that caught up in race and racism and all that kind of stuff, even though it's already proven all life came out of the Australian African area, you know, because Pangea was a thing. So don't forget about Pangea. You know, if you remember Pangea, it'll help you think differently about what's going on as well. The splitting, right? The splitting of the people, splitting of the mind. So, and also helps you also remember that the earth is a living being, that we are on. Just like the ant on our skin, we are the human on the planet, the being on the planet. And that cosmic awareness will help you also see better from a bigger picture, a wider view, a broader view of real life. You know, not these boxes that we put ourselves into, you know, because these are just boxes we put ourselves into to attempt to protect us from the outside world, whatever. And these are just boxes that we've been, these coffins we've been put into to make us go with the program. So house is another way to explain this so we can break it through. If you can see, so I've been I was trying to figure out this 4D aspect of it as well, because some people talk about the fifth dimension, fourth dimension, whatever. And so for this false light to fall apart, you just have to turn it a little bit. That's how I figured it out. Okay. So this is that piece of destroying that and reconnecting back to the higher self and to the cosmic divine. You know? Because this is really how it feels to me when I don't know, this is just what I was meditating and I just whatever. I gotta do a video of me drawing one day. And so you see this turning, rotational, flowing energy. You know, it's like you start to pour water on an old wheel and it starts to turn and break through and break up all the old dust and gunk or whatever like that. So this is what we must do to our DNA to remove the AI construct, is bringing information, knowledge, wisdom. That's what Age of Aquarius is about. Bring in truth and knowledge and connection of human beings and looking at reality with the proper borders. With the proper borders. So that we don't like flood. But I recommend looking up sacred geometries, and while you're doing um, this work of removing these constructs and rebuilding yourself, rebuilding your mind um, to be a powerful decision maker for your best interest, and your best interest that come from, you know, your from the truth. Like, if you're basing what's good based off of 2D perception, and then you suddenly gain a higher perception, it will it'll just change the way you do things and change the way your mind reacts to things. Because once I started realizing this, I realized how different my mind was just operating. Like, it's much more, I don't know, I'm much more in control of my mind, I feel. And I'm more connected to source, and things have been aligning as they should be because I've, entered a different dimension of perception. And this is New Earth, baby. Perceive the light differently and perceive the false light. Like, don't ignore that this neon sign, the neon sign is not a real light. I don't know why I said that, but yes. So you start flowing this and it starts to rotate. It's like okay, so this is flat, right? Or this is flat. But when you start to, rotate things, it bulges out, like when you're looking at those optical illusions that have the grid lines and they're, it's showing you how it can make, sort of it change just the grid lines itself just change your perspective just by moving the lines a little bit. So yeah, so when you just in your mind, you meditate on what is holding you. You meditate on this, the lies and the deception and the illusions. If you just rotate it like 45 degrees, you'll see that it just falls apart. It really does just fall apart, honestly. That's why, like, as soon as you get reconnected back to your higher self, it just breaks all that out. Like, this is all expelling the negativity and that is creating a true divine flow again. So yeah, and then all the negative stuff is destroyed and repurposed and recycled back into the higher self, into the universe. Compassion, awareness of the inside and outside the connection. So yeah, that's basically how I want to explain that. But I kind of don't know how to explain it any deeper besides in imagery. Because words just don't do enough. That's why I started drawing again. This is very much how I feel about like what's going on, or this is the solution to what's going on. This is just connect our hearts mainly with each other, with our higher selves, and we can say whatever with our higher selves, to the Most High, to the Creator, to Source, to even though the new Matrix, like return to the source. But yeah, that's just because these media companies, they take things and they twist. This is how the false light construct works: is they take the real light, they take the truth, and they just paint it like theirs. Like how they rewrite history to make themselves look like they were a part of it, or make other people look like, whatever, you know? We know that history's been stolen and rewritten. This is what the false light matrix is. Because that's when you rotate it, you just do like 5 seconds of research, you start to find out all this stuff just starts to fall apart. Um, and then the problem is when it all falls apart is what do you do next besides wait for everything else to fall apart with it. I mean, a lot of and the more people realize that though, the better. That means we can start rebuilding in proper energy flow with our instinctual spiritual selves. Because like if everything, like there was an episode of like everything is on some kind of sort of grid or geometry, right? Some kind of mathematics. Um, but the magic is the magic in applying the math and science is understanding where it comes from and what it's for in the first place. Like in my like it seems like the so-called scientific research nowadays, or so-called professional scientific research nowadays, is only for capitalist purposes, or nothing is funded unless it serves some kind of profit interest, instead of the human interest. And anything that serves human interest doesn't really get funded, of course, because we understand that they are. I mean, just look at what it is. I mean, whatever gets funded, whatever doesn't get funded, shows what they're up to. Simple. Because they're not gonna. Because no matter what kind of false construct they have, it's still in the light, and whatever's in the light has a shadow, and the shadow they've tried to turn. They just I don't know. It's just so insidious. It's so insidious. It's so evil what's been done. But it can be undone, of course, because like I just said, if you rotate it, it's like if something was hanging here. I don't know. I need like a example of some kind, like. I don't know. But yeah, let me take this for example. Like if something's hanging there on your DNA, on your perception, if you just you move it, you see it'll fall right off because it doesn't belong there for one. And then yeah, it just falls right off. It's like if that's as simple I can put it. Because you just have to like just shift your perspective just 10 degrees and it falls right off. You have to rotate it 4-dimensionally in your mind. Because we see things so flat. People see things flat on the TV screen or phone screen, whatever, in a book. But until you raise it into 3D, it's just you're going to think everything's on the same playing field. You think everything's the same elevation, the same importance, or very perceived importance it has. So yeah, and make sure you're doing this 4D rotation and this 4D mental rotation carefully so you don't like hurt your brain. Just meditate on it slowly, because it takes time to just shift your perspective, because things will just start looking differently. You'll start thinking of things differently, and like I mean, it's not like I can't operate in society or whatever, but I just know how society is operating, which gives me like an icky feeling trying to like still work in this shit, you know. I guess it's like, I guess it's like once you find out, it's like, how do you cope? Besides making moves towards, well, this is where free will and sovereignty comes in. You start making moves toward making the world, your life better, or making life better for others through whatever means you can. Operating compassionately, um, once you, or just have being compassionate as you break out of this matrix will really save you, because you get rewarded, right, for good deeds. um at least I would hope so. Whatever is considered a good deed, but you get rewarded for doing the right thing for others. As we should be, but I don't know, this war is bizarre world, so it seems you get rewarded for doing bad things to others, and when you want to do good for others, you have to like suffer. And I think that's just that's not the way it was designed. Like, why would that be designed that way? You know, and it's not, we can't take control of. We are co-creators of the universe, so whatever we create in our own lives has an impact, on everything. Because it's true narcissism to think that you don't have an impact on others, or to think that you can create your own little world or little cult and it won't affect others. That's all it's going to do is create your own little richer, your own little island for yourself, um where you go crazy on. But compassion is, understanding human condition. And I understand that people are lost in this program. People are lost in this false light and in this 2D way of thinking, this flat way of thinking, flat earth way of thinking. Um, that keeps a lot of people down because they think they can't go up because their perspective has been squashed. People get into depression and all sorts of mental illness, because they think there's no way out, because they think everything is flat. They think they're stuck. Um, they think there's no up or down either, or an out. Or some people aren't even aware of their inside how their inside world is, or how the outside world doesn't match their inside world, and with their and they're creating this big contrast and conflict, trying to live in that tiny headspace, and it's just going to make you crazy, obviously. This whole lockdown situation has created a lot more of that, or exacerbated even more. Suicide rates gone up because people just weren't ready to face the fact that they've been living in some false world that they created, or people were just trying to cope, or some people weren't ready to face the fact, like I just said, ignoring it, or, like you can ignore it until it's in your face, and then what you do when it's right in your face, because in reality we may think it's 2D, but it's not 2D. So, I mean, of course, perception, whatever, but people think it's 2D because you've been told it's 2D. But I'm telling you, it's not. I'm telling you, you can think in 3D, you can think in 4D, you can rotate your perception and see things from a different angle, and you can start fixing your perspective of the world. I mean, this is just what I've perceived just through watching so much stuff and just being out and about, talking to people, talking to people, seeing what people are saying online as well, and just my own intuition. Um, because I don't want to. I mean, I would hate to get online and like say things that aren't helpful. I don't want to say anything that's not helpful to anybody. So you gotta take what resonates. But I think this should help resonate the part of your mind that you wanna fix. It should bring. It should help you find that false light program that's in your mind that's splintering your perception. Um, and it's very deep in there. It's very deep in there, and it will take some time to get out. The problem, of course, is that how do we deal with it now? Because now this is a totally new thing, and this is a completely new thing, and I'm trying to get the best advice I can, but I know this is new. This is kind of new information. Um, just recovering from the so-called deadly Rona, but yeah. So I hope this has made some kind of sense to those light workers who are trying to break free from the matrix. I hope this is great advice for changing your perspective on the world and giving you the ability to perceive different dimensions. Um, like, I mean, of course, I didn't like figure it out until I took a psychedelic, of course, but because that's when because psychedelic is able to break you out of or is to show you the grid, or it opens up your perception to what all the around you, this this stuff that's going on around us. Um, so yeah, that's all I want to talk about in this content today, and I hope this helps.